This is In Conversation with Pilvi Torsti. I'm the director of the ETF, and we bring great minds, experts to discuss important matters that we work with. Today we have with us Manuela Geleng. Welcome. Manuela is Director for Jobs and Skills in the European Commission in the Directorate General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. And she has, of course, worked extensively during her career on these issues, currently in particular with the future of work, union of skills, youth employment, vocational education and training, skills portability, you name it. Very topical issues. Manuel, I would like to really start about the very broad overview that you can have. Taking the times we live in, we really see that the skills need have changed in the labor market. Nearly 3/4 of employees report actually difficulties in finding workers with the right skills. So you as the Director for Jobs and Skills, how do you describe the role of your Directorate of the EU in this whole skilling probably problemacy as well?
Thank you, Pilvi. Well, I think the issue of skills, the need for better skills, for having the right skills that are needed in the labor market has been there for quite some time now. And but I think we are coming to a point where the urgency is creating the need for a step change, because the transformation is going fast and faster, and we have a smaller pool of people that can actually deliver that transformation. And there is where we need to become much more active. And when I say we, is not just at European level, at national, at local level, companies, social partners, we all have to engage in a much more proactive way.
And how has it seemed to you now with your extensive experience in these past couple of years when the urgency is what you just described? Are we coming together as EU, as member states, as cities, as employers and so on?
I think there is a renewed awareness that we need to come together, and we don't start from scratch. We have some initiatives at European level that have really managed to gather, to join forces. For instance, the Pact for Skills, where companies, social partners, public authorities, employment services come together to upskill and reskill the workforce. So this is one example. The most recent example, more at policy framework level, is the Union of Skills, which actually has a key objective to join the dots between employment and education. We cannot solve the skills problem only by working on education or only by working employment. It will work only if we work together.
Taken that you have worked now to develop the Union of Skills, how do you think it can shape Europe's training systems and really support workers to move into better jobs, to new jobs?
Well, I think there are 4 areas of work within the Union of Skills. So the first area is really to make sure that our young talent gets the best education and training, so that when they join the labor market, they have the skills that are really needed. But we also put the focus with the Union of Skills on the upskilling and reskilling of the labor force. And this is really important, changing the mindset that you haven't just learned at school, but you will learn throughout life, and you will do so, actually. But also in taking away the barriers that we have now. We have a single market, but we don't have a single market for skills. So people that want to move from one country to another or want to join Europe with their qualifications and their skills have problems. And this is what also we would like to look at more in detail.
So looking both young and adults in the framework of Union of Skills is really the kind of grand idea of EU in this policy.
It focuses how can we give to the young people the best skills we can, so that they can master their lives, their working lives. And that means they have to learn. And others, we want to entice them to upskill and reskill throughout life, to giving them the means to do so, and the understanding how important it is that they upskill and reskill if they want to continue having a job and a quality job.
Let us move a little bit further to the adult learning and its targets. There is a target for 60% attendance, while the current average is around 40%, and in many countries within the member states, much less. How can the approach inspire countries, also now beyond the EU, and what support can EU offer so that low-skilled, mid-career people could participate more in adult learning activities?
Well, yes, indeed. We have a target that every adult should participate at least once a year in training, and by 2030, 60% should do so. Now we have, as you said, less than 40%, and the reality is much more stark across member states, because some reach the 60% and some are very, very high, far away, and that's why member states have also set their own national target on how to make progress on this target. At European level, I think we have really put in the last few years the focus on adult learning. We have launched a number of initiatives like the Pact for Skills that I mentioned. We want now to the Alliance for Apprenticeships, whereby companies and other organizations pledge apprenticeship places, to extend it to adults as well. We will be launching, as part of the Union of Skills, a skills guarantee that is helping adults to move from sectors that are in decline to sectors that are in demand. So there are a number of initiatives, but of course funding is limited at all levels. So we really need to make the best of it, and we need also companies to join in, the private sector to join in this initiative, in supporting the development of skills of their workforce, or the workforce of their value chain. I think we need to think in a broader perspective as well, because we are all in the same boat, right?
So having now covered Union of Skills, Pact for Skills, these initiatives, moving to the mobility and global WED agenda, of course, again, interrelated, yet also very prominent in your portfolio. Last September, we had Vice President Minzatu reminding us, and I quote, "Labor mobility must be fair, and when a worker moves, their rights should move with them." Manuela, how do you see, how can EU strengthen the recognition and really ensure this type of fair mobility for all, so that there is kind of triple win, win for the worker, win for the receiving country or region, and win for the country of origin in economic terms, but also really on a personal terms of an individual?
Yes, indeed. I think skills and qualifications are not yet portable across Europe. Sometimes they are, sometimes they are not. And I think one of the initiatives we will be launching under the Union of Skills is precisely about skills portability. We will be looking at how we can make it easier for workers to move across borders with their skills and their qualification, tackling the barriers that they encounter. We will also be looking at how can we modernize the system of regulated professions that we have. As you know, some professions are regulated at national or European level, and we will be looking at how can we facilitate that. Certainly, we will also be looking at how we can facilitate people from third countries moving into the EU with their skills and qualifications. So I think we should have rather a skills-based approach. If the person has the right skills for that job, she should be able, or they should be able to take up that job. Another issue is clearly if this is a regulated profession, like doctors, nurses, lawyers, then specific rules are in place. But for the bulk of jobs in the single market, there is actually no need to have a recognition of your qualifications. You should just be able to take up the job. So what hinders employers to take someone? I think it's the trust on the qualification that has been acquired in another member state. And that I think is really a hurdle. And for that, we have a number of tools at European level that enhance the trust and the transparency of the qualifications.
That's, I think, one thing we recognize in many countries where ETF works. So you have on one side the qualifications and their portability, and on the other side, the recognition of skills. And of course, the importance of working on both. In some cases, it's really important that you have really the qualification element recognized and worked with the European standards.
Yes, I think that the story is a bit different for certain countries, because I think there what we can do at European level is perhaps to look at how we can facilitate and streamline the procedures to apply for with your qualification and skills, because all the rest which concerns visa remains a national competence. But even there, we see how complex it is for someone from a third country applying to the EU, because it will have to come up with different documents for different countries. Procedures take very long time, and many of the people, third country nationals that work in Europe, work below their qualification level. And I think this is really a loss of potential for people, and we should avoid that, particularly in a situation where we are struggling to find the right skills in our labor market.
Finally, then a little bit about the role of ETF and now the external EU's external enlargement. And how important it is for EU citizens and member states to actually have access and work together with the outside world, if you like.
I think it's fundamental because we all live in the same world, and we live quite closely together, and we really need to make sure that we understand each other. And I think for some countries which will be one day a member of the EU, it's even more important to have an understanding of how the European system works. And I think that many of the challenges we see, we are all faced with digital transformation, we are all faced with decarbonization. So why not facing these challenges together?
When we then look at the next budget, which we are of course all working on an EU level at the moment, there is a growing attention on investment and stronger ties with countries outside the Union, in particular in the priority economy sectors that have been analyzed by the European Union. How do you see the skills investment here? Should they really be part of the design a priority when EU looks the investments to the third countries and regions, and there be kind of some formal mechanisms for that?
Well, I think skills is a fundamental aspect, right? And we are working within the Commission to have this skills aspect always present. And I think if we come forward with next year, for instance, with a strategy on vocational education and training, it will have an international dimension. This is really important because we need to interact with our neighbors, with our partner countries, and we want to do this. And while before we were speaking about an international dimension, I think now it's really high on our agenda.
Manuela, we have a tradition here, so that there is a question that our previous guest has left for you, and I'm going to now read it for you. The person was Arthur Erken from International Organization for Migration, Regional Director for Europe and Central Asia. And Arthur's question is, by 2050, how will Europe have transformed itself to stay a powerful continent, economically, politically, and socially?
Well, I can only answer in what would be my wish. I think, fully carbon neutral Europe, a Europe that has managed the transformation, the digital transformation, where the human being is still at the center and is not driven by AI, but decides. And a Europe that lives in peace and in prosperity and is bigger and stronger. And that means a Europe that lives in peace and prosperity with our neighbors, and near and far away.
What a beautiful answer, I think. You said climate, you said human-driven yet digitalized and peaceful, and hence strong. Therefore, it's really my pleasure to ask you to leave a question for the next guest. Even I don't know who it will be. So take your time and give a question for the person.
Okay, thank you. Done.
Thank you. As last question, I come back to Union of Skills. I was told some weeks ago that in this complex world where we have lots of strategies and so on, so sometimes we have a risk to get lost, that everything seems so difficult. For you, what seems at the moment the perhaps most critical, important next step in bringing the Union of Skills forward as a policy?
Cooperation, and basically it's what I wrote there, because I think what is missing, there is a lot of energy out there, a lot of goodwill, but everybody tries to do it in their little corner. I think we can be much stronger and much more efficient if we work together. And that's what the Union of Skills is about, joining forces, particularly between the labor market and the education world.
Thank you. These are very good words to close, working together and cooperation. So, dear viewers, we had Manuela Geleng, Director for Jobs and Skills from the European Commission, giving us these wise words of cooperation to close with for today. Thank you for being us. Until next time.